The lens. The lens is an assembly of several glass discs placed in a tube on the front of a camera. Its primary purpose is to concentrate or focus the incoming light rays on the surface of the imaging device or the target. A picture is considered to be in focus when the adjoining lines of contrast are as sharp as possible. Video cameras are outfitted many different lenses to give a respectable range from wide angle to a normal to telephoto. The full range of these can be witnessed by zooming the lens. By zooming, you are moving the lens closer or further from the CCD. The zoom occurs as the lenses move back and forth inside the camera and optically magnify the image. Digital zoom sounds great, but is essentially useless as it only magnifies and therefore pixelates the image received by the CCD. A normal lens that replicates objects with a similar perspective to the human eye for television covers a horizontal area of about 25 degrees. This is the most natural perspective for the viewing audience. A wide angle lens covers a larger area at closer distances to the camera. It is useful for handheld work in crowded or confined areas such as the back seat of a car, because wide angle shots tend to hide camera movement. Wide angle lenses magnify depth, making picture elements appear more spaced apart than in reality. Focusing is less critical and depth of field is increased. Telephoto lenses. They allow the selective isolation of parts of the subject from a distance. Such shots compress depth, slowing perceived movement toward and away from the camera. So-called telephoto compression shots of a faraway subject running or walking seem to stretch out, creating a more unified image. Because camera movement with this type of lens is exaggerated, it is best to use a tripod with a telephoto lens. The zoom lens. A zoom lens is a variable focal length lens. It allows the camera operator to zoom in and zoom out on a subject without moving the camera forward or backward. The zoom lens enables the camera operator to select any coverage within its range. Most video and television cameras come with optical zoom lenses. An optical zoom uses a lens to magnify the image and send it to the chip. The optical zoom retains the original quality of the camera's chips. The majority of today's video cameras are equipped with variable focal length zoom lenses which combine normal, wide angle and telephoto capabilities. A zoom lens can operate at any focal length in its range. Gain control. Gain is the strength of the video signal. Some cameras have a gain select or gain switch, while others may have the feature available through a menu option. On a studio camera, the control may be located on the CCU. If this function is available, you should be aware of its effect on the recorded image. Improper use of the gain switch can result in unusable footage. Adjusting this control allows the strength of the signal going from the camera to the recorder to be increased or decreased. The white level, black level, color and tint are equally affected when the gain setting is changed. Depth of field. The area in front of the camera that appears sharp in the frame is called depth of field. Depth of field is defined as the range of acceptable focus on a shot. Depth of field is an important concept for cinematographers and camera operators to master, because they often need to manipulate focus to achieve a desired effect. Selective focus, for instance, draws the audience attention to a specific portion of the frame. Depth of field can be either shallow or deep. Shallow depth of field is the kind in which part of the frame is soft or out of focus. Thus, the areas of focus or sharpness are limited. Deep depth of field, on the other hand, is the kind in which the entire frame from the foreground to the background is sharp or in focus. Three factors affect depth of field: 1. Aperture, 2. Focal length, and 3. Focus distance. Aperture. The aperture is the opening at the rear end of the lens that determines how much light travels through the lens and falls on the image sensor. The size of the aperture's opening is measured in f-stops, one of two sets of numbers on the lens barrel, the other being focusing distance. The f-stops work as inverse values, such that a small f number, say f2.8, corresponds to a larger or wider aperture size, which results in a shallow depth of field. Conversely, a large f number, say f16, results in a small or narrower aperture size and therefore a deeper depth of field. Focal length. The focal length of the lens does appear to have a significant impact on depth of field, with longer lenses producing more blur. A 200 millimeter lens focused at 12 feet will have a wafer thin depth of field compared to a 20 millimeter lens focused at 12 feet. Focus distance. Focus distance is the last factor to determine the depth of field. The closer the focus is to the camera, the bigger depth of field is. You probably have noticed this. On close-ups of actors or objects, part of the frame is usually blurrier than on wide shots of landscapes. Autofocus. Many video cameras are fitted with an automatic focusing feature. This is a useful device for the occasions when the camera operator is preoccupied with following the action, is not sure where the subject is going to move next, and might get the focusing wrong in the heat of the moment. If the camera operator relies entirely on the automatic focus features in the camera, the resulting images will vary greatly. The autofocus system simply sharpens the focus in a selected zone of the shot, irrespective of what is appearing there. So, it needs to be used with care. What is the exposure? Every video camera requires a certain amount of light to function effectively and produce quality images. However, the chips can only handle a limited range of tones. If the amount of light from a surface exceeds the chip's upper limit, it will reproduce as white in the video picture. It will burn out or clip to a blank white. Conversely, where a surface reflects too little light, it will fall beyond the system's lower limit and crash to an overall black tone. The average brightness of the lens image falling onto the chip is primarily determined by the lens aperture or f-stop. The goal is to adjust the aperture so that the most important tones, usually people's faces, are clearly visible. This process is called adjusting the exposure. Correct exposure is a